Science has come a long way since 1993 when Magic the Gathering first started. We have the Hadron Collider, incredibly precise medical instruments, and of course, the HP LaserJet Pro. But despite all these technological advances, we remain shackled in the Commander format. The rule is 100 cards. The average player sees nothing wrong with this, but I think it's time to drop the training weights and surpass our limits. But how? I spent years in the lab trying to figure out a way to go over 100 cards. When it dawned on me, thanks to the voices of almost 2,000 people screaming out to build a deck that is 200 cards, but technically 100. How could I have never thought of it before? The only question is, can it be done? Can you build a deck where every card is actually 2? But before we get started, on the internet, I'm known as the most unhinged deck builder there is. So if you're sitting there thinking, I've got an evil idea, I bet he could never build this, challenge me in the comments down below. The one with the most upvotes, I have to build. And while you're down there, hey, leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Now, the rules are simple. To be in the deck, it's got to have the 2 backslashes. That's the only way you can know it's 2 different cards. Pretty easy. Let's get the ball rolling with our commander. Baluna Grand Squall is green, blue, red for a 4/4 giant noble with trample, and they love the Scholastic Book Fair because you get those adventures for cheap. That's pretty cool. Now, their adventure side is, of course, Cheap Thrills by Sia. You mill 7 cards, you put those adventures into your hand. Pretty cool. Now we can read them later. Nice. Now, just like any conservationist, let's talk land. We've got 3. Crag Crown Pathway, River Glide Pathway, Bark Channel Pathway. Technically 6 if you count the backsides of those. But that's it. That's all the technical land we have in the deck, is what I would say if I wasn't an absolute freak at deck building. Okay, we've got Shocklands, never heard of them. Seagate Reborn, you take 3 damage if you don't want it coming in tapped. Same goes for all of these other ones. There's a lot of Shocklands. There's 9 of them. It's pretty cool and pretty awesome. But if you're okay waiting for a little bit, there are tap lands instead. We got the Teeth, we got the Balaged, we got the Bayin, we got the Drowned Jungle, got the Glasspore Shul, Jawari, we got the Khazad-dûn, we got the Khazad-gûl, we got the Kalani, we got everybody, all right? Everybody's got their little tap land, okay? We're waiting for it. It's taking a while. There's actually a lot. But that's it for the land, is what I would say if I wasn't an absolute unit at deck building. That's right. In all my years of science, I learned there's always more land if we can answer the Sphinx's riddle. And what I mean by that is that if there's cards that if you do something, they turn into land. They transform. It's pretty sick, okay? We got Tectadlun, we got Conqueror's Foothold, Lost Veil, Geode, Itlamok, Winged Temple, Primeval Wellspring, as I can't say that, Myriad Pool, Treasured Cove, Myconoid Maze, Spitfire Bastion. They all add a bunch of mana, which is good. And then we got a couple of these guys. They're land, but also they turn back into their guys sometimes. So they could be land or creatures when you need them. That's pretty helpful. Pretty cool. Now, that's just the land. So I'm sure you've noticed we have a lot of decision making to do. It's kind of a trolley problem, whether or not we play our land or we play the cool creature. But don't worry, I have ways to help. Okay, follow me here. Beanstalk Worm, you play an additional land. That's pretty good. Budoka Gardener, we can tap to put a land card onto our hand. So now all those bad stuff is more land. Journey to the Oracle, we put any number of land cards onto the battlefield from our hand. That's pretty cool. Walk-in Closet lets us play them from our graveyard. So if they die as a creature, we can play them actually the backside as a land. That's pretty neat. And then we got Greenhouse, so that our mana is fixed, and we mill stuff and put permanent cards into our hand. That's pretty cool. And then Kellen lets us play an additional land, and he's also got an adventure, so he's cool. Now, my big brain is massive, so follow me along. When we cast the adventure side of a card, the non-adventure side goes into exile, stuck in the doctor's waiting room, playing Candy Crush and answering emails about its car's extended warranty, until, of course, Baluna gives us a nice coupon where we can cast the permanent side of it for 1 less. But what if we're greedy? What if we like getting stuff for free? Well, Warped Space is 6 mana for a room. Once each turn, we can pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell we're casting from exile. And those guys hanging out in the waiting room of the doctor's office, yeah, that's an exile. We can pay 0 now. Very sweet. So sweet, I doubled down. Tin Can Hunter is 7 mana, trample, Scorpion Scout 7/7. He's dope. Once each turn, we can pay 0 for the creature spell we cast from exile. So now that's 2 things for free from exile and everything else for a 1 mana discount. Except I tripled down on it with Jacob Hawkeen Inspector 1 and a blue. They're like the 80s trope where the girl next door is actually like a tomboy, but once it's time for prom, she lets her hair down, takes off her glasses, and puts on high heels. Yeah, she transforms into Hawkeen's Insight, a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of our upkeep, exile the top card of our library face down. And then once during each of our turns, we can play a land or cast a spell that's exiled with it without paying its mana cost. We tripled down, that's right, except I actually kind of quadrupled down. Forgotten Cellar is 5 mana. When we unlock this door, we may cast spells from our graveyard this turn. If it would go into the graveyard, it's exiled instead, except if we're casting the adventure side of cards, they go into special exile. It's like a cool waiting room, right? And then we can cast their permanent side later, even though they would be exiled from Forgotten Cellar. It's sweet and awesome and cool. Now, hold your horses here, because that's only half the equation. What about those instant and sorcery adventures we're going on? Well, thankfully, Rowan or Will both reduce instant and sorcery spells by 1, as well as Primal Amulet reducing them by 1, which is good and all, but what if we get even more greedy? We want more for less. Thankfully, this old-ass lady says whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, which our adventures are, reveal the top card of our library. If it's a non-land card, we can cast it by paying 1. Most likely, all of our stuff is non-land because we only have 3 technical lands in our deck. That's part of the synergy. If it happens to be a land, we can put it on the battlefield. That's sweet. Monster Manual lets us cheat creatures onto the battlefield. So does Turn Timber Symbiosis. It's 7 mana. Look at the top 7, which is like half our deck at this point. Put a creature card onto the battlefield. That's sweet. We've also got Reason, and my favorite, Believe. A reason to believe. We can scry and then look at the top card, and we put it onto the battlefield if it's a creature card, or put it in our hand if it happens to be a land card. That's sweet. Bramble Familiar is dope because we pay 7 for a fetch quest, milling 7, then put a creature, enchantment, or land from among the milled onto the battlefield. That is some insane value if we hit the right stuff. So, you're probably wondering, how do we win? Well, am I glad you asked. You see, it's only fitting that this deck has 2 ways to win. The first is Baluna. She has a referral code, lets us get big permanents onto the battlefield for cheaper, or we can just straight cheat them out using Osier, Monster Manual, Believe, maybe the Hunter guy sometimes, and now we have a bunch of power, we just punch our opponents in the face. Or we initiate plan Concierge. This guy goes on a fetch quest for our finest of rooms. Very nice. Only the presidential suite will do. Because once we have 8 or more different names among unlocked doors of rooms we control, promising stairs say we win the game. Now, you might be worried about milling too much with the fetch quest, milling 7 every time. Don't worry. Memory shuffles our hand and graveyard. Survive shuffles our graveyard. And so does Balaged Recovery, letting us pick 1 card from our graveyard and putting it into our hand. Very nice. I never thought I'd see this day. All those years in the laboratory. Finally, we did it. And now, a quick summary, just in case you zoned out because of ADHD. We have a hot giant lady as our commander. She gets credit card points on permanent spells with adventures. We use those to punch our opponents in the face and win. Or we win with an escape room. By that, I mean escaping the game store we live in by having a bunch of rooms that we escape from because we're like unlocking them. Hey, it doesn't have to make sense, but it wins the game, all right? That is the end of the video, though. So if you liked it, leave a like. If you subscribe, subscribe. If you want to come hang out with us, join the Discord. It's linked in the description down below. And of course, I have a Patreon. You should come and support me. It's the cheapest adventure there is, says that hot giant lady. And if you have something you want me to build, leave that in the comments down below. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.